Well, as the weather warms up, it's a good time to remind pet owners the dangers of the heat.
Yes, so here with us is Homeward Animal Shelter Director Heather Clyde with some important tips for the summertime, because we're getting into those temperatures where we're seeing the upper 90s. A lot of people leave their pets outside when they're not home too.
Yeah, and that's kind of an issue, especially if the pet doesn't have appropriate shade or access to water. They can get overheated very, very quickly. Pets, just like humans, can get heat strokes, so it's important to keep them in an area that's cool. If you can keep them in an air-conditioned home when it's 90+ degrees outside, that's best for them.
And for a lot of people too, they go to take their dogs for walks in the afternoon, but I think that's kind of advised against as well.
Correct. So the best time to take dogs for the walk when it's that warm out is either really early in the morning when it's nice and cool out still, or as late in the evening as possible. You have to keep in mind too that the sidewalks are going to be really hot. So if you want to test the sidewalk, take your shoe off and step on it. If it's too hot for you, it's too hot for your pet to be out there walking on the sidewalk.
Well, you forget about their little pads and
Yeah.
their paws.
Puppy paws.
Yeah, the concrete, the pavement gets really warm. It's soaking up all the heat, and it's hot on their little paw pads too. So it's important to check that out before you take them for a walk.
And then how about just keeping them hydrated? Any tips on that?
Give them plenty of fresh water. If your dog loves hanging out in the kiddie pool, that's what we do for our shelter dogs when they're outside, is give them a kiddie pool full of water and let them hang out. And a lot of the labs especially will just go lay down and cool down in there. So they love that. And then of course making sure you're not leaving your animals in hot cars is a big one. Anytime the temperature's usually over 65 or 70 degrees, it gets super warm in cars very quickly. When it's 90 degrees outside, the car inside the car can easily get 130+ degrees very quickly.
Do you have any tips for that? Because I remember the other day I was walking around, I was coming out of somewhere and saw a dog in a car, and I was like, that doesn't look right, but you kind of just trust the owner. And I mean,
if it's really warm out at 90 degrees and you see an animal in the car, best thing to do is, if you feel the animal's in distress, panting, or it just seems too warm and is trying to get out of the vehicle, to call the cops. They can come and assist and get the pet out of the car if they feel it's too warm.
Yeah, you think about when you get in your car and you kind of get that heat just wave at you. You wouldn't want your pet sitting in that either.
Yes, and they can get very sick very quickly in that kind of heat.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned too finding them those places to cool off. So that means, you know, either making sure you have shade in your backyard or the garage door open.
Yep, someplace where they can get into shade and have access to lots of fresh water.
Yeah.
I love the kiddie pool idea.
Yes. And this goes for cats too. I mean, some people let their cats go outside and they can just overheat just as much as a dog can outside.
You don't see cats panting very often, but if your cat starts panting, they're way too warm. So get them back inside where it's cooler.
Whoa.
Good stuff. They got a great event coming up Saturday.
Yes,
Saturday. We're going to tell you all about right after this. You can go out there and tell them what they can do, Chrissy, because Jaron mentioned
You
it.
can have a beer with some dogs.